We all know that it was spring break in Houston, and the Houston Rodeo was a target location, with almost 2.5 million people showing up throughout the 3-week event. And we already know what some people from our community did up there. Yeah, if y'all wasn't shooting some of y'all, we know that y'all was fighting. Which, I mean, to be honest, at least we're consistent as a people.
Got him!
In my generation at Black Family Night in Sacramento at the California State Fair, we was doing the same thing. Fights! And of course, so from the West Coast to down South, we are definitely the same. But this one is a little different.
There were a lot of people posting videos of folks in Houston in parking lots of events or whatever. I don't know what the hell was going on in Houston, but there were people having just like straight up sex, raw sex, inside cars, out and about, you know, all willy-nilly.
Okay, so let me just say this. We had the gunshots and the fighting, but not necessarily the sex at the event. That's something that typically happens down south. I will give it to y'all. Y'all are a lot more freakier than us, especially if you from like Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas. Y'all definitely would do this stuff. And you saw, or at least it was people allegedly having sex in cars. I heard the term raw.
Damn!
And that's what I want to talk about, because with a lot of the going out, it was with a lot of our people from our community, a lot of the youth, all right? And speaking of the youth being out there, there was a problem with how a lot of the women were dressed, especially the women under 30. And so now they've had to fix that problem by doing this.
Clothing with objectionable material, including obscene language or graphics, excessively torn cloth, visible undergarments, okay? And or clothing which by nature exposes excessive portions of the skin. Cheeks out, no mo, okay?
So I did some investigations about what was going on in Houston. And of course, I went online and I saw some things that were trending, okay? And then I came across this particular nurse who lives in Houston. And she gave a very interesting warning.
In honor of spring break and all y'all going to Houston, I'm going to tell y'all what the STD rate has been from 2025 to 2026 in case you decided to go out there and hunch. Yeah, this is real. I just thought somebody was calling me. Okay, syphilis has surged all the way up to 79% in the year 2025 leading into 2026. HIV has surged and increased in 17%. Gonorrhea, chlamydia has surged 32%. And the ages are from 15 to 24 years old with that. All the hot spots, where they're saying like the main sources of these STDs are coming from: Montrose, downtown, OST, South Union area. The demographic is Black people, Hispanics, whites, ranging from the ages 15 to 35. Yeah, so if you went to Houston for spring break, I hope you didn't hunch nobody out there. Thank you. Have a good day. Be safe. Have fun.
Boy, you don't sit your stupid ass down. Who the you think you is?
Now, this was, in my honest opinion, very, very devastating and very sad to see rates that alarming. I mean, really, like you young folks say, it's diabolical. And when I listened to the age range, I believe it was from like 15 to 16 to 30. This is the problem with the age range coming to the event. Young people, people who are sexually active, people who are experimenting. Right now, there is like this trend on TikTok which says something to the effect of first night in Houston or first day in Houston, where people are pretending to expose a girl they just first met. I don't know how true that situation is, but it's just really bad, right? And then here's a problem with the youth that are participating in this.
People do not care about catching anything. People do not fear HIV. People do not fear syphilis, gonorrhea,
People don't fear none of those things. People live life on the edge and they are pleasure chasing, meaning they don't care about the consequences. Long as they can feel good in the moment, that's it. That's all people chase.
The young man is saying something that's important. It's almost like they don't care. And to be honest, they don't. A lot of these diseases are not as heavily stigmatized as before. Like certain people are just bragging about having certain incurable diseases and they just don't care. And when you look at people, especially we talk about the Black community, this all comes back to just the low self-esteem and not valuing oneself inside of the community because the ecosystem is not really developing that sort of self-esteem as before. Now, I'm not trying to say the Black community didn't have problems in the 80s and the 70s. Of course we did. But the ecosystem is weaker now. When you have parents in your life that show that you are worthy, that you are a Black woman or a Black young man to be cared about, anybody can make mistakes in giving the sexual urges. But when you have good training, you're less likely to make more mistakes. And of course, mistakes can always happen. But what we're seeing right now is a break off from the generations that came before that are unstable. Back in the day, like when I was coming up in the 90s in Del Paso Heights, we still had the last Big Mama, the last Medeas. They lived across the street from us. They would, we could go to their house. Shout out to Miss Honeycutt. She used to live right next door to my grandma. And if she wasn't at home, I can go in her house. She would have something that I can eat. I could stay over there until my grandma got home. And she actually was AME. My grandma was Baptist, but she was AME. She would talk to me about, what are you going to do? You're going to go to college. What kind of young man are you going to be? What do you want to major in college? What do you want? Her son, Leon Honeycutt, he's one of the first Black men that I knew that had a MBA from an Ivy League school. He went to Cornell. He was an accountant. And Mr. Leon Honeycutt, he lived in Davis. He's one of the few Blacks that have a home in Davis. They would teach you these things and talk to you. And even though you made mistakes, you could lean on to that. Right now, I don't believe that the youth in the Black community don't have that anymore. So they don't value themselves. When you live in a community in which you feel proud of and you value yourself, it changes how you look at the world. And people are like, well, why is everybody having reckless sex and reckless drinking? This is an escape to get away from a person's low self-esteem. That's what it is, okay? It's because the person don't feel valuable. And now when you say, well, you better wrap it up, yeah, that's fine. But then what happens when that mentality isn't about sex? What happens when that mentality is about being a husband or being a wife or being a pillar in one's community? Because just if that person wraps it up, that's only solving one problem. But that person's a walking STD in everything else that they do. They're pessimistic towards the community. They don't want to develop the community. They have problems getting along with other Black people. So you may solve the STD rates, but that person still doesn't have any institutional value in the Black community. And once a young man or a young Black woman has value in the Black community, they're not going to risk themselves for the most part, catching diseases, catching AIDS, drunk driving, reckless sex. And again, if you want to make it out to this is all that the problem is, well, that's it. But no, it's bigger than that, all right? And I wish the Black community would really look at the ecosystem or the lack thereof that our people grow up in. When you don't own stuff in your community, when you don't feel like you have the opportunity to get your talent that can take you someplace. You feel like you have something to do the next day or the next year, and you know that your efforts will turn into something. You will actually respond better. And to be honest, with a lot of these things happening and a lot of uncertainty, you got AI out there, you got all these things, these youth don't have a whole lot to depend on. And it's not as bad as what it is in Uganda or in Africa, but I can tell you the similarities are there. People feel that their life is uncertain. They're only looking at self-pleasure for that time. That's all they care about. Because they feel like my life is not going to be worth that much anyway. Who cares? Let me just enjoy for the time being. And in the black community, that's lack of ecosystem development. We can blame the white man as much as we want. But when we don't have that ecosystem developed in these black places, Houston's, okay? Now, I'm not trying to say that blacks are not doing well. Of course, blacks are doing well. I'm talking about a self-developed black ecosystem, okay? Where you got black men talking to younger black men, where you have the sisters talking to each other, when you have families, you have actual churches and organizations that step up and do certain things. That's what I'm talking about. But until then, you need to know this.
I'm having a grand old time sitting on my couch for free, laughing at y'all's expense. However, above all else, I'm a public health professional. Please make sure you get tested when you get home. Make sure you get tested. If you are in college, which most of you are, it's spring break, your campus has facilities that offer free testing. Okay, and even if it's not free, you only have to pay maybe like $20 at most. Y'all was able to come down here and spend all that money. You got $20 to go over there and get that little hoo-ha and that little Peter Wacker test. For you grown motherfuckers with jobs and insurance, even if you do not have a job or have insurance, I mean, you shouldn't have been down here anyway, but whatever. They have clinics that do free STD testing. Look them up. I don't care how far it is from you. You was able to hop your ass on a flight, drive to the airport, and then fly your ass down to Houston. You could drive 45 minutes to an hour to go and get your little area tested. Go and get tested, please.
If you were in Houston this weekend and you have went back to your city and you had any kind of one night stand or sexual experience, you need to go and get tested, okay? For sure. Let me just say this. If you were ugly and broke, you probably don't have no problems.
Got him!
I'm glad I'm ugly and broke and I don't have no problems. But if you was a dude that, you over 6'3" and the chicks was on you and oh yeah, they was looking clean like they didn't have nothing and you decided that you just want to go ahead on in, put it all the way in, yeah, you might as well go ahead on in and work that out. And again, this is going to continue to be a problem in our community all across the nation until those things are affected. You know, everything is not just STD rates or murders in the black community or robberies. Everything is ecosystem development. When you look at, let's say, for example, NFL players and how they get to the NFL, you know, it's a developmental process from Pop Warner to middle school to high school football. If you want to still develop, there is JUCO, okay, junior college football. Some people go to Division II, Division III, the FCS, Division I. Then you have your Power 4 conferences, your Power 5 conferences. People have indoor facilities. You know, you got the combines. There is a direct element to how to get to the NFL. And it's clear now, more clear than ever, how to do it. NBA basketball, it's very competitive. It's clear how to do it. How do you become somebody in Black America or in America where you can actually know where your life is going? What is your role as a young black man or as a young black woman that is productive in society? There is no ecosystem that we have developed since the 50s that clearly identify that for our people, our youth. And so when you don't know how to do that, you're going to make bad decisions. Look at the NFL players that are out there right now, okay? Their pathway to get to the NFL, they had to be extremely focused, working hard, okay? Practicing skills, drills, and doing all that because they understood the pathway to get to where they wanted to be was achievable. Our black people don't understand that in our community. They understand how to do it in the system, but inside of our community where it's important, all we know how to do to each other is how to be, for the most part, destructive. Okay, how to be defiant. All right, how to disrespect each other. That's what we know how to do. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy Oshay Duke Jackson back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Drunk. I appreciate you for all you just heard the bell. We're out.